Hello, and today we are doing a little Nano Blackwater. This is a 45 by 30 by 28 tank, which is about 35 to 40 litres. So we're popping some substrate down here at the moment. This is some old stuff that has come from a previous scape, and we are topping up with some NutriBase, which will give any of the stem plants a bit of a kick. This has got a mixture of fertilisers and beneficial bacteria in it. So then capping it off with some decorative sand and making a bit of a mess in the process. And just evening it out, ready to pop the hardscape in. So we've got a couple of pieces of large bogwood here, and I'm going to use some small pieces of seiryu stone to just prop up the one on the right hand side there, just so that it gives a slightly better angle. So it doesn't really matter too much, just keep playing with it to get something that you like. The idea being is that we're going to put some emergent plants in this tank, so I want a small area in the two back corners to be able to tuck the roots of the emergent plants into, so that it's held quite nicely. So I'm just going to get the wood glued to the rocks now so that it doesn't float up. So this is the super glue and tissue method, which is just putting a small amount of tissue or toilet paper in between the wood and the rock, and using some liquid super glue which will make it set like plastic. Cyanoacrylate super glue basically ends up being inert once dried, so this is a very easy and safe method to use for the fish. In some areas it's worth scattering some sand over the top of the wet super glue, because then it hides the white appearance of it when it goes hard. So now just adding some more decorative rocks. These are for decoration, but I do also need to ensure that this piece of wood on the right hand side doesn't float, so this enables me to have some anchor points between the stone and the wood so that I can super glue them together. Everybody's had an incident where they've forgotten to super glue wood down and it just floats up and ruins your scape. It's just part of the learning process, but this is always recommended. So these are the plants that we've got here. Some of these have been purchased, but others I've taken from other tanks. So we've got a couple of Bucephalandras, we've got several crypt plants here and a small amount of hairgrass, and then a couple of sections of Anubias. One Anubias Nano Petite, which is the small one, and a couple of larger leafed Anubiases, which are from another scape of mine. So to prepare the plants, they generally tend to come wrapped in rock wool, which kind of keeps them fertilised while they're in transport and growing. So for these ones, it's a nice job of just unwrapping this filter wool and gently teasing out the plant themselves. You usually get several bits of plant in one pot, so it tends to be good value for money. So these Bucephalandra pots have got a slightly different variety of rock wool. The roots tend to grip on this more, but you tend to find a section of the rock wool which has got a split in it, and you do the same thing, you just pull it apart away from the roots of the plant. Bucephalandra plants are epiphytic, which means that they can stick to wood and rock, and they take nutrients from the water column. So just taking away some of the rock wool from the roots here with a pair of tweezers, because the more rock wool that you leave on the plant, the more that the nutrients will get into the water column, and that could cause issues with algae problems if there is too much nutrients in the water column. So a lot of the epiphytic plants that go onto the wood, as you'll see here, can be stuck into place. Again, you just put a little dab of super glue and then stick the large rhizome on. You'll see that I'm using a quick set spray here as well. The super glue that I'm using is super glue gel, so it doesn't set as quickly as the liquid variety, but obviously it is useful for keeping the glue in place. So the spray just sets it instantly. The Cryptocoryne that I'm planting here, these are all stem plants, so they go into the substrate. There's not going to be too many stem plants in this build, but crypts are very good with low light levels, so they'll do quite well tucked underneath the wood here. And just using some of the smaller varieties like the Crypt Parva, which is a small one, and the hairgrass to decorate around the edge of the rocks to give a little bit more of a natural feel. And giving the plants a spray down will stop them from drying out while you're in the process of building the tank. So the Bucephalandra is a little bit like the Anubias that we planted in that it sticks to the wood. There were a couple of places where I could tuck it in between gaps without super glue, and so that was useful. The last piece here I just wanted to stick on the front part of the wood. So these are the plants that I'm using as the emergent plants coming out of the top of the tank. So this is simply a peace lily. So to prepare them, you just pull most of the soil away from the roots and then give the roots a good wash to get as much of the soil off as possible. A little bit like the rock wool, you don't really want to leave that in the water column because it can lead to problems with algae through overnutrients. And simply, it's just a case of tucking the plants into the top of the tank, getting the roots below the waterline to make sure that they are well fed. There are some things online which say that you shouldn't put the leaves of the plant below the water. I've not really had too much of a problem with that. Sometimes the leaves will die off and you just take them out, and then it doesn't actually pose much of a problem at all. So you can see that I'm using the wood here to just kind of hold the plants in place. These act as a really good filter because the roots will take nutrients out of the water column, which again is a good thing. The less nutrients you have, the less algae that you're going to have in the water. So theoretically, I could actually create this as a no filter tank and just use the plants as a natural filtering mechanism. However, the fish that I'm putting in here do like a little bit of flow. As you can see here, I've put in a small filter with a little bit of a spray bar to just get some water movement in the tank. We've also got a heater in here as well because the plants are the fish are tropical. Plants are also tropical, but the fish are tropical. This is about a week in, so you can see that I've popped some snails in to help with the algae. The water is still a little bit misty, but you could get rid of that easily with a water change or use some polishing filter floss and some AccuClear. There are also some floating plants in here, which again all help with keeping the tank clean and balanced. The light is just a standard light with a clip and just hovers over the top of the tank. So this is another week in. I've actually moved across some existing fish from one of my other aquariums, ready for that one to have a build. So in this tank at the moment we've got some gold tetras here, which have got a lovely white appearance that shine blue in the light. And we have also got some green rasbora, and the green rasbora are quite nice because they spend a little bit more time towards the top of the tank. They really like the flow there, so that was the main reason why I popped a filter in this tank, though theoretically it doesn't need it. There are also some cherry shrimp in this tank to help with the algae, but they're harder to see. And this is 2 weeks on, so this has got the rest of the fish that I managed to catch out. The reason why there was a smaller amount in the first clip was because I was catching them out without having broken the tank down, which obviously is a little bit difficult. So I've now managed to catch the rest out. And you can see that we've got some cardinal tetras in here, both the standard coloration, and there are a couple of the gold variety in there as well. So I wouldn't want to put more than this into the tank, and I'll need to keep an eye on the parameters to make sure that it's not being overloaded with the amount of fish that's in here, because it is a small tank, so you just have to be careful with the amount of fish and the amount of waste that they produce. It requires just a little bit more maintenance. So that's it for this build, a nice short one this time. I'll leave you with a little bit of video before you go. Thank you very much for watching. Please do like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.